Commander Elias Kane walked alone through the desert corridors of Aurelia 7, a mining colony at the far edge of human space. The colony was built on a harsh, rocky planet, its surface cracked and dry, and storms of red sand often tore through the settlements. Most people here were miners or engineers, focused on survival and profits. But Elias had a different task: security engineering. He knew every corner, every drone patrol, and every hidden camera. That morning, the colony was unusually quiet. Most workers had retreated to their shelters because a massive sandstorm had been brewing for days. But Elias had something urgent on his mind. He had intercepted encrypted communications from the central lab, messages that hinted at something unusual, something not human being held in secret. He didn't know exactly what it was, only that it had to be freed. The lab was a tall structure of metal and reinforced glass, humming with energy. Elias approached the main entrance cautiously, checking security codes he had memorized. The door was sealed with an advanced lock, but years of experience had taught him how to bypass even the strictest systems. One by one, he deactivated the alarms and cameras. Every beep that went off in the control room was carefully avoided. He knew the moment the system detected a problem, guards or drones would descend, and he had to move fast. Inside the lab, it was cooler, artificially controlled, unlike the harsh heat outside. The air smelled faintly of ozone and chemicals. Rows of high-tech containment chambers lined the walls, each glowing faintly with blue light. Some contained strange machines, others seemed empty. But one chamber drew Elias's attention immediately. Inside was a woman, though she was no ordinary human. Her skin shimmered faintly, like liquid light moving beneath her surface, and delicate, translucent wings extended from her back. Her eyes were large, luminescent, and intelligent. Even from a distance, Elias felt that they were studying him, reading his very thoughts. She was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The alien woman, Lyra, was trapped inside a reinforced glass cage. Electric currents occasionally ran along the edges of the chamber, small sparks dancing like lightning. She had been experimented on, he realized. There were marks on her skin, faint scars, and devices attached to her body. Her wings twitched slightly as if she wanted to fly but could not. Elias's heart pounded. He knew the authorities would never approve of freeing her. They would likely kill her, or worse, study her until she was broken. But something about her gaze made the decision easy. He had to help her. Working quickly, Elias scanned the chamber's control panel. Wires and buttons blinked in complex patterns, but his engineering skills allowed him to understand the system almost instantly. With a few precise movements, he bypassed the energy locks and disconnected the containment field. The glass doors slid open with a hiss. Lyra moved slowly at first, uncertain, but as soon as she stepped out, she hovered slightly above the ground. Her wings glimmered under the lab lights, folding and unfolding gracefully. She tilted her head toward Elias, and he felt her gratitude, not through words, but through a quiet, almost musical thought. "We need to move," Elias whispered, though he knew she could hear him even without speech. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the lab. Red lights flashed, and drones hummed to life. Security bots rolled into the hallway, their cameras scanning for intruders. Elias grabbed Lyra's hand. She did not resist, her touch surprisingly warm and soft, and together they ran down the corridor. Elias's mind raced. He had studied the layout of the lab for years, but never had he been in a real escape. He led them through maintenance tunnels, over catwalks, and past storage rooms filled with mining equipment. The drones followed, their sensors glowing as they locked onto their targets. Lyra's wings were an advantage. She didn't fly high, but she glided just above the ground, helping them move faster over uneven terrain. Elias had never seen such a combination of grace and power. She was fragile, yet somehow stronger than anything he had encountered. As they neared an exit leading to the desert, Elias noticed the first real obstacle: a security gate that could not be bypassed from his side. He cursed under his breath. They had no time to find another route. Lyra seemed to understand his thoughts. She stepped forward and placed her hands near the energy grid of the gate. A soft, pulsing light emanated from her fingers. The gate shivered, sparks flying along the metal bars. With a hum like distant music, the lock disengaged. Elias stared in awe. The alien woman had powers beyond his understanding, yet she used them gently and precisely. They burst out into the desert just as the first heavy winds of the approaching storm hit. Red sand swirled around them, reducing visibility to almost nothing. Elias shielded Lyra with his body as they ran toward a ridge where he had parked his speeder. Behind them, drones were already descending, and he knew the colony's security teams would follow soon. "Hold on," he shouted, fumbling with the controls. The speeder roared to life, its engines barely keeping steady in the storm. Lyra clung to him, wings brushing against his back. He could feel her heartbeat, or something like it, against his own. As they sped through the dunes, Elias finally had a moment to study her more closely. She was elegant, yet otherworldly. Her skin glimmered even in the storm, like the surface of a quiet ocean at night. Her eyes seemed endless, holding the knowledge of her entire species. And yet, there was a vulnerability there, a hint that she had suffered greatly in captivity. The storm worsened, and visibility dropped to almost zero. Elias had to rely on instinct and memory of the desert's terrain. Rocks and cliffs loomed out of the haze like silent monsters. He narrowly avoided a jagged ridge, skidding across sand and gravel. Lyra laughed, a musical, wind-chimed sound that filled the speeder. It was the first moment of lightness he had felt in months. Finally, they reached a hidden canyon that Elias had discovered during his explorations of the planet. It was a natural fortress, surrounded by cliffs, with a small cave system that could hide them. He parked the speeder and led Lyra inside. The storm howled outside, but within the canyon, there was calm. Lyra finally spoke, for the first time. Her voice was soft, melodic, and carried an accent he could not place. "Safe, for now." Elias nodded, still catching his breath. "We're not out of danger yet. They'll come looking for you, and for me." She tilted her head, studying him. There was a quiet understanding between them, a bond forming faster than words could describe. Elias realized that this alien woman, fragile as she looked, had saved him in ways he hadn't even noticed. She had guided him, helped him, and now, she had placed her trust in him entirely. The sun began to rise behind the canyon cliffs, casting red-orange light across the desert. Elias knew that their time was limited. They could rest for a moment, plan their next move, but eventually, they would have to face the colony's pursuit. And whatever lay ahead, it would change both of them, forever. As he looked at Lyra, hovering silently in the cave, Elias felt a spark of hope. Humanity had always faced challenges, but now, in the presence of a being from another world, he realized something. The universe was far bigger than he had imagined. And perhaps, with Lyra's help, they could face it together. The storm raged outside, but inside the canyon, for the first time in years, Elias felt something he had not felt in a long time. Freedom. The hidden canyon was quiet now, the raging storm outside fading to distant howls across the desert. Elias Kane had never felt more alive, yet never more aware of danger. Lyra hovered in the cave, her delicate wings folding neatly behind her. Her glowing skin dimmed slightly in the shade, but her eyes still shone with intelligence and something else: curiosity. Elias unpacked a small emergency kit from his speeder. He handed Lyra some rations, though she barely touched them. Her biology was different, clearly not reliant on human food. She studied the food with interest, touching it lightly before returning to hovering in the air. Elias tried to speak, then realized that Lyra could communicate in ways humans could not fully understand. At first, it was a series of gestures and soft hums. He noticed her subtle movements, the tilt of her head, the slight pulse of light along her arms. Gradually, he began to respond with his own gestures, matching her rhythm. Hours passed. Through gestures and telepathy-like impressions, Lyra shared fragments of her story. Her homeworld was far beyond the reach of human space, a planet of floating cities and oceans that glowed at night. Her people were peaceful and wise, exploring the universe to learn, not conquer. But she had been captured while observing a human mining colony, taken for experimentation because humans feared what they did not understand. Elias listened, fascinated. He felt a deep sense of guilt and anger. Humans had imprisoned her, but he had freed her. Still, the dangers were not over. The colony's authorities would not stop until she was returned or destroyed. "I'll protect you," Elias said finally. Lyra's eyes seemed to soften at his words. She reached out and lightly touched his arm, and he felt a warmth that had nothing to do with physical contact. It was trust, gratitude, and something deeper: connection. They spent the rest of the day exploring the canyon. It was a labyrinth of narrow pathways, cliffs, and caves. Elias showed Lyra where they could find fresh water and places to hide if anyone came looking. Lyra moved easily, gliding and folding through the tight spaces that Elias had to climb or squeeze through. He realized how fragile she looked, yet how capable she was. By nightfall, a sense of calm settled over the canyon. Elias lit a small fire, careful not to create smoke that could attract attention. Lyra watched silently, her light glowing softly, casting shadows across the rocks. She had begun to mimic some human gestures, tilting her head, nodding, even attempting a smile. Then came the first display of her true abilities. Elias noticed a deep cut on his arm from earlier when climbing a sharp rock. Lyra hovered closer and touched the wound lightly. The cut glowed faintly, and within moments, the skin knit itself together. The pain vanished, leaving only a tingling warmth. Elias stared in amazement. "You can heal?" he asked, astonished. Lyra nodded. Not through words, but through a thought that resonated in his mind. "Yes, but not everything. Only what is needed. Only gently." Elias realized that Lyra was not just an alien. She was a being of incredible intelligence and power, yet she had no desire to harm. Her abilities were meant for care and protection, not destruction. This realization made him respect her even more. Over the next few days, they settled into a routine. Elias repaired a small area of the cave to be their temporary shelter. He collected water from hidden streams and rationed supplies from the speeder. Lyra explored the canyon, learning quickly about the environment. She found small plants and insects that Elias had overlooked, understanding their usefulness almost instinctively. They began to communicate more fluidly. Lyra could project thoughts and images into Elias's mind, allowing them to share ideas instantly. He showed her maps of the colony, the surrounding desert, and their potential escape routes. She offered insights he could not have imagined: hidden paths, safe zones, and places where storms would shield them from pursuit. Elias was amazed at how quickly she understood human behavior. She predicted patrol schedules, drone patterns, and even how humans might react if they spotted her. Together, they began to formulate a plan, not just to survive, but to ensure she could eventually return home safely. One evening, as twin moons rose above the canyon, Elias asked, "Why did you trust me?" "Humans. We usually only take what we want." Lyra's light pulsed gently. Through thought, she answered, "You acted differently. You risked yourself for me. You saw me as more than a specimen. That matters." The words struck Elias deeply. He had spent years in human colonies, among people who valued profit and power over life. Here, in this hidden canyon, he found something he had never known: connection, purpose, and the chance to do something truly right. Their bond grew stronger over the next days. Elias taught Lyra about human technology, how his speeder worked, how communication devices functioned, and even the basics of human food and water systems. Lyra, in return, taught Elias things beyond his comprehension. She showed him glimpses of her energy manipulation. Small objects levitated, glimmering with a soft light. Water could be purified instantly, plants could grow faster. The possibilities seemed endless. One day, Elias tested her abilities. He was repairing part of the speeder when he accidentally cut his hand deeply. Lyra approached and placed her glowing fingers over the wound. The pain faded immediately, and the cut closed as if it had never existed. Elias looked at her, awed. "You are Extraordinary, he whispered. Lyra tilted her head, her eyes reflecting the stars outside. Extraordinary, perhaps. But it is not about power. It is about care. As they trained and prepared, Elias realized that he had changed too. He was no longer the solitary engineer focused only on survival. He had become a protector, a friend, and perhaps something more. The alien woman had brought out the best in him, but the peace was fragile. One afternoon, as Elias scouted a nearby ridge, he spotted the first signs of pursuit. Small drones hovered in the distance, patrolling the outskirts of the colony. He returned quickly to the canyon, warning Lyra. "They're coming," he said. Lyra's wings flexed as she hovered closer. "I know, but we are ready." Elias nodded. They began preparing traps and defensive measures, using both human ingenuity and Lyra's alien abilities. Rocks could be lifted silently to block paths. Energy pulses could create barriers that drones could not penetrate. Together, they became a team, a human and an alien, working in perfect harmony. At night, Elias sometimes wondered what would happen if they were caught. But he pushed the thought away. He could not imagine returning Lyra to the colony, knowing what they would do to her. And she, in turn, seemed to trust him fully, though she said nothing. Their bond needed no words. Over time, small moments of wonder brightened their days. Lyra learned to mimic simple human movements, laughing softly when she succeeded. Elias taught her to use his tools and she adapted instantly, combining human technology with her own abilities in ways he could barely understand. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise, Lyra touched his hand lightly. A spark of light flowed between them, not harmful, not threatening, just a silent acknowledgement of their bond. Elias realized that this alien woman, whom he had rescued from captivity, had become more than a companion. She was a partner, a guide, and perhaps a friend he could never forget. The desert outside remained dangerous. The colony would not give up easily, but for now in the hidden canyon, they had peace. They had trust, and they had each other. Elias finally understood something he had never realized before. Humanity was capable of greatness, but it needed guidance. Perhaps, with Lyra by his side, they could show the universe that humans could rise above fear and greed, that humans could be allies to other species, not just conquerors. And as he looked at Lyra, glowing softly in the moonlight, he felt a quiet hope. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in years, he felt certain that they could face it together. The hidden canyon was quiet, yet the tension in the air was heavy. Elias, Kane, and Lyra had grown closer over the past days, learning to trust each other, sharing knowledge, and preparing for what they knew would come: human pursuit. The desert beyond their sanctuary was vast and dangerous, but it also provided them cover. Still, Elias knew they could not hide forever. One morning, as twin suns rose over the canyon cliffs, Lyra floated toward Elias with a soft glow surrounding her. Her wings shimmered faintly in the light. Elias could sense that she had something important to show him. "Lyra?" he asked, curiosity mixed with cautious anticipation. She extended her hands and a small crystalline device hovered between her palms. It was delicate, almost fragile-looking, yet it pulsed with a strange, gentle light. Elias stepped closer, studying it carefully. The device seemed alive, almost breathing with energy. "What is it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's glowing eyes met his, and he felt her thoughts, soft but clear. "It is a gift. For you. It is a gift of trust. It can help, but it is powerful. Use it wisely." Elias's heart raced. Humans had never seen technology like this. It was unlike anything built by human hands. He reached out cautiously, and the moment his fingers touched the crystal, warmth and energy coursed through him. Images of possibilities, of knowledge and strength flashed through his mind. He understood the device could enhance human abilities, intellect, reflexes, physical strength, temporarily. But it was not a weapon. It was a gift meant for growth and care. "Why me?" he asked, unsure if he could handle such responsibility. Lyra's wings fluttered gently. Because you acted with your heart. You risked yourself to help me, and that is rare. The gift chooses those who are worthy. Elias felt the weight of her words. This was no ordinary alien. She was offering him power, not to dominate, but to protect, to learn, to become better. And he knew that humans, if they discovered it, could misuse it. That thought tightened his chest. Before he could speak further, the quiet of the canyon shattered. A distant hum grew louder, and Elias recognized the sound immediately. Drones. Not just any drones, but the colony's hunting machines, now equipped for a full-scale search. They were closing in. "Lyra," he said urgently, "they found us. We need to move, now." Lyra's wings glimmered as she nodded. "We can fight if needed. We are ready." Elias grabbed his tools and improvised weapons, while Lyra hovered in front of him, her hands glowing with energy. Together, they prepared traps. Rocks floated silently under her control, ready to fall and block paths. Energy pulses formed barriers that drones could not penetrate. Elias's engineering knowledge and Lyra's alien abilities combined to create a defensive perimeter unlike anything the drones had ever faced. The first wave of drones arrived just as the sun reached its peak. They rolled into the canyon, sensors scanning, metal limbs clicking and whirring. Elias signaled to Lyra, and she released a pulse of light. The drone's circuits sparked, some stopping mid-motion, others spinning uncontrollably before collapsing. Elias moved with the crystal's power flowing through him. Reflexes sharpened, movements precise. He leapt and rolled over debris, disarming drones and redirecting their energy. Lyra hovered above him, guiding him, amplifying his speed and strength just enough to keep him safe. Together, they were unstoppable. Yet Elias noticed something troubling. The drones were adapting. Their sensors recalibrated after each pulse, and new drones entered from different paths. The colony had not underestimated them. They had prepared. "Lyra," he shouted over the clamor, "we can't hold them all." She glowed brighter. "We must act. The gift can help, but only briefly." Elias understood. The crystal had limits. Its energy could enhance him, but only for short bursts. Overuse could be dangerous. He focused, letting the device guide his movements, sharpening his senses, heightening his reflexes. The world slowed. He could see the drone's weak points before they moved, anticipate attacks, and strike with precision. Lyra moved gracefully, weaving between attacks, lifting debris, and neutralizing threats with careful energy pulses. She was a force of nature, yet controlled, her power flowing like water, never wasted. Elias realized then that their combined strengths, human creativity and alien capability, made them a perfect team. Hours passed in what felt like minutes. The drones continued to attack, but Elias and Lyra adapted. They moved deeper into the canyon, using its natural formations as traps. Narrow passages funneled the drones into choke points, cliffs provided cover, and hidden caves allowed them to regroup. Finally, the last of the drones was disabled. Silence returned, except for the faint hum of the crystal in Elias's hand and the distant desert wind. Elias lowered himself to the ground, exhausted but alive. Lyra hovered nearby, her wings folding as she regarded him with quiet pride. "You were incredible," Elias said, his voice shaky from exertion. "I couldn't have done it without you." Lyra tilted her head, her light pulsing softly. "Nor without you. We work together. That is important." Elias looked at the crystal again. He knew that this gift was more than a tool. It was a responsibility. If humans discovered it, they could misuse it. But with Lyra's guidance, it could be a symbol of hope, of what humanity could become if it acted with care and courage. Over the next few days, Elias and Lyra tested the crystal's capabilities. Elias discovered that he could enhance his strength to lift massive debris, his intellect to solve complex problems instantly, and his speed to outrun or outmaneuver almost anything. But Lyra warned him always to use it wisely. "This is not a toy," she told him one evening. "It can help, but it can also harm if used carelessly. Elias nodded, understanding. He had seen too many humans misuse power, let it corrupt them. This gift was different, but it required wisdom. As they trained, they also worked on a plan. The colony would not give up. They had to find a way to secure Lyra's safety permanently. The crystal could aid them, but they needed more than power. They needed strategy, intelligence, and trust. Lyra began to share more about her species' knowledge. She could manipulate energy in precise ways, communicate with machines, and sense danger before it happened. Elias realized that with her guidance, humans could learn to use technology not just for war or profit, but for growth, healing, and exploration. One night, as they rested beneath a starlit sky, Elias asked her quietly, "Why do you trust me with this gift? Others would have used it for control or profit." Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "Because you see value in life. You act with heart, not greed. That is rare among humans. That is why." Elias felt a surge of purpose. He had rescued Lyra, yes, but now he understood that their partnership was something greater. Humanity, through his actions and hers, could rise above fear and selfishness. Together, they could show what humans were capable of when guided by empathy and courage. But the peace was still fragile. From the canyon ridge, Elias spotted new signs: distant shadows, faster drones, and figures moving in human formations. The colony had learned. They would not stop. "We need to move soon," Elias said, urgency tightening his chest. Lyra nodded. "Yes, and when we do, the gift will guide us. But be careful. Power alone is not enough." Elias glanced at the crystal, its light steady and reassuring. He felt its energy humming through him, enhancing not just his body and mind, but his resolve. Whatever lay ahead, he knew they could face it together. The canyon that had been their refuge for days would soon become a battleground. But Elias no longer feared. With Lyra at his side, with trust and wisdom, and with the unusual gift she had entrusted to him, he was ready. As dawn broke, painting the canyon in gold and red, Elias and Lyra prepared to move. The colony would come. Storms and dangers awaited outside, but they had a plan. They had courage, and they had each other. And deep in his heart, Elias felt the first true spark of hope, not just for survival but for the future. The hidden canyon had grown tense under the rising sun. Elias, Kane, and Lyra stood at the cliff's edge, surveying the desert below. The colony's forces had intensified their search, sending squads, drones, and fast reconnaissance vehicles. They were closing in faster than ever. Elias's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the responsibility he now carried. The crystal in his hand pulsed with quiet energy, its power ready to aid them, but only if he used it wisely. Lyra hovered beside him, wings shimmering in the morning light. She had sensed the approaching danger long before Elias had. "They are coming. We cannot delay." Elias nodded. "We fight if we have to," he said, "but we need a plan that keeps you safe, and this gift from falling into the wrong hands." Lyra's glowing eyes met his. "Yes, that is wise." The first signs appeared on the horizon. Small drones darting like insects, then human squads moving steadily, coordinated, disciplined. The colony had brought everything they could spare. Elias and Lyra had no choice. They would face them head-on. They retreated to a narrow canyon pass, a natural choke point that Elias had discovered earlier. Rocks and boulders lined the path, and Lyra began lifting them with her energy. Barriers formed quickly, silently, as Elias positioned his makeshift defenses and traps. Every movement was calculated, combining human engineering with Lyra's alien power. As the first wave arrived, Elias activated the crystal. The energy surged through him, enhancing his strength, reflexes, and focus. He moved like lightning, redirecting attacks, dismantling drones, and guiding Lyra through the battle. Her energy pulses disabled more drones, shields formed and vanished like liquid light, and Elias marveled at her precision. The humans, though skilled, were unprepared for such coordination. Their drones crashed into barriers, Soldiers stumbled against energy shields, and chaos spread through their ranks. Elias felt the thrill of victory, yet he remained cautious. The colony would not stop. They would adapt. Hours of relentless confrontation passed. The desert sun climbed high, sweat and dust covering both Elias and the approaching soldiers. Lyra remained near him, her energy glowing brighter with each burst of effort. Together, they were unstoppable, but the strain on both of them was visible. Finally, the lead commander of the colony emerged from the ranks, flanked by elite guards. He shouted orders, his voice carrying across the canyon. Elias recognized him from earlier surveillance. Cold, calculating, relentless. "You cannot hide here forever, Kane," the commander barked. "Surrender the alien and her technology, or face total destruction." Elias tightened his grip on the crystal. He looked at Lyra. She hovered beside him, her wings flexing, eyes locked on the commander. "Do not fear, we can win, but the gift must be preserved." Elias nodded. He knew what he had to do. They could defeat the colony today, but if the crystal fell into human hands, everything they fought for would be lost. The true challenge was not just survival. It was responsibility. With a deep breath, Elias activated the crystal fully. His movements became a blur, intuition guiding him in ways he had never imagined. Drones exploded in arcs of light, and human soldiers stumbled against invisible barriers. Lyra amplified the crystal's energy, creating a protective dome around them that repelled attacks while remaining harmless to life. The colony commander realized he was outmatched. Elias and Lyra moved with impossible coordination, striking not with malice, but precision and defense. Slowly, the humans began to retreat, unable to breach the defenses or adapt quickly enough to the combination of human ingenuity and alien power. When the dust settled, the canyon was silent except for the hum of the crystal and the distant desert wind. Elias lowered the device, breathing heavily. Lyra hovered beside him, her glow softening. The immediate danger had passed, but the decision he now faced was heavier than any battle. Lyra's voice, or rather her thought, reached him. "The gift can be returned to my people, where it will be safe. Or it can remain with you, risking misuse, but aiding humanity's potential." Elias stared at the crystal. Its energy pulsed gently, inviting him, promising strength, knowledge, and power. He could see himself using it to protect humanity, to lead, to prevent suffering, but the risk was real. Misuse could bring destruction, greed, and war. He closed his eyes, considering every possibility. He thought of the colony that had hunted her, of the human greed he had witnessed across worlds, and of the lessons Lyra had taught him. Trust, care, responsibility. These were the true gifts, more than power. Finally, he made his choice. "Lyra, I'll return it," he said. Her glow intensified, wings fluttering in a display of approval. Wise. That is the path of care and courage. Together, they ascended the canyon, moving toward a hidden plateau Elias had discovered during earlier exploration. Lyra guided him with gentle energy pulses, and when they reached the plateau, she extended her hands. The crystal floated between them. Elias released it, and it moved toward her, responding to her will. As it hovered above her palms, its glow became soft and steady, safe from human interference. He felt a strange mix of relief and loss, the power that had surged through him now gone, but replaced with something far greater: trust, wisdom, and hope. Suddenly, a squad of colony reinforcements appeared at the edge of the plateau. They had followed the battle, determined to claim the crystal. Elias stepped forward, ready to confront them, but Lyra raised her hand. A pulse of light erupted from the crystal, enveloping the plateau in a shield that was impenetrable. "Go," she projected to him. "They will not pass. You are safe." Elias nodded. Together, they watched as the colony forces were forced to retreat, unable to breach the shield. The battle was over, the crystal safe. Humanity had been tested, and Elias had proven that courage and care could triumph over fear and greed. As the sun set, Painting the canyon in orange and gold, Lyra turned to Elias. You have done well. You have shown humanity can rise above itself. You are ready to lead in ways they cannot yet imagine. Elias smiled, a mixture of exhaustion and pride. And you've shown me that the universe is bigger than I ever dreamed, that there is more to life than survival and rules. Lyra nodded. And now, our paths part. I must return home. But this is not the end. Humanity has potential, and you have shown it the way. With a soft glow, Lyra lifted into the air. Her wings caught the last rays of the suns, reflecting light like a prism. The crystal's energy pulsed once more, then faded as she disappeared beyond the horizon. Elias watched her vanish, feeling both loss and hope. He turned back to the canyon, to the desert beyond. Humanity's future stretched out before him, vast and uncertain. But he knew this: with courage, trust, and the lessons he had learned, humans could rise to meet the universe. Not as conquerors, but as allies, explorers, and protectors. The canyon was silent once more, the wind carrying the memory of the battle and the glow of the crystal that now rested safely with Lyra. Elias stood alone, yet he did not feel lonely. He had been changed forever. His perspective widened, his purpose clarified. He looked to the horizon, where storms and dangers would always come. But he also saw possibilities, hope, and the promise of growth, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. And in that moment, he understood the greatest lesson Lyra had shared. True strength is not in power alone, but in care, wisdom, and the courage to do what is right. Elias Kane took a deep breath. The journey was far from over, but for the first time he was ready to face it, fully, courageously, and with hope.